most of us are concerned about the tendering operation on National Monument. I know I am, and we'll let Mr. McCurdy go ahead with his comments.
Thank you, sir. First thing, I want to thank Gil for his comments on the tourism industry, because everything he said I agree with 100%, even though I'm up here to make a statement against this designation as a national monument. However, of everything he said, there is not one iota of evidence, either way, for or against, to say that our hotel motel tax, our tourism industry, is going to be either adversely affected or proactively affected in a positive way, whether or not we have this national monument or not. Those facts are true, but it's not going to save the tourism industry. There's no facts to that. It's not going to destroy it if we keep things just as they are now. So I just wanted to make that point. The most recent Monongahela National Forest Land and Resource Management Forest Plan was approved in 2006. It was a collaborative process conducted by the Mon National Forest staff that included public hearings, the dissemination of free information to anyone that wanted to receive it through a mailing list or by visiting one of the offices, and the opportunity for all citizens to be involved in this planning process, regardless of their interest in the forest, was afforded them. These stakeholders included the logging industry, mountain bikers, fishermen, wilderness advocates, hunters, horse enthusiasts, cross-country skiers, and others. Through this series of public meetings and comment periods solicited and well advertised by the U.S. Forest Service, there was over 15,000 comments were received by stakeholders and interested parties for review by the U.S. Forest Service in the development of this 2006 plan. This information was used to formulate management alternatives or a draft plan for review and solicitation of additional comments by the public. This was the second opportunity for public comment. Once additional comments were received from the public, forest officials developed a final plan recommendation that had to be approved by our congressional delegation in Washington, D.C. Our representatives, of course, received comments on the plan, both for and against, from different interested parties. So you could construe this as a third opportunity for all citizens to be involved in the planning process on how our national forest in Pocahontas County is going to be managed. Finally, once approved in Washington, the plan became a reality and gave direction on how the forest will be managed for 10 to 15 years. And we're about 8 years into that plan now, so a few years down the road we'll be looking at the plan process again. Of the 15,000 comments received, and through that collaborative process with 3 opportunities for public input, there were no lawsuits. There were 2 appeals that were settled out of court. 2 appeals. The proposed area for the National Monument, just to give you some background information, 38% of the Monongahela National Forest has privately owned mineral rights. The majority of the proposed area is designated as a 4.1 prescription management unit. How many people in here know what 4.1 management prescription means? That's good. There's about 4 or 5. That's in the forest plan if you've ever read it. Of the 4.1 prescription areas on the Monongahela National Forest, 62% have privately owned mineral rights. 62% of 4.1 prescription, which the majority encompasses this proposed area. Proponents of the National Monument have not given specific boundaries, and there's a reason for that we'll allude to here in just a second. Some of the talking points from the proponents, from Mr. Costello and some of the other people that want to see this monument come to fruition, is that the U.S. Forest Service will still be the managing agency. You can still hunt and fish. You can continue the water quality enhancement by continuing to apply limestone fines for the acid rain neutralization. We want everybody to be involved in the proposal. We want something all user groups can provide input. No timber harvesting. That one's definitive. We will have public meetings to solicit options. And recently, just earlier during his comments. Let me throw out a few more here. Excuse me. We want everybody involved with what we come up with. We want to hone the plan. We want to work with the DNR. We want public meetings, 4 or 5, the end of this month, beginning of next. We want to work on management recommendations together. We want collaboration. We want to get rid of this non-trust issue that we have amongst us. We want to make sure that we're always going to be able to hunt and fish. We're going to make sure, by God, before the county, excuse me, sir, when I'm done, you know, I should be afforded the opportunity to speak the same as the gentleman preceding me. I guarantee that we should be afforded the opportunity to hunt and fish. You know, all these guidelines in your letter, the county commission supporting this, all these guidelines the CVD put in, supporting, you know, we're only going to support this if all of these issues. Now here are the facts about the National Monument. And I would like for everyone in this room to afford Mr. Costello the opportunity to, if he wants to come out against any of these facts, if there's anything here that's unclear, I do acknowledge that he's put the most research into this, and would like to give him the opportunity to tell me if I'm wrong. And by the way, any of this information, these numbers I threw out, I have the notation in the forest plan to back it all up. So I'm speaking on facts, not generalities of boundaries, not generalities of management restrictions. I'm speaking on facts. Printed facts, approved by Congress. The President designates national monuments without congressional approval. Let me say that again. This doesn't go through Congress. This is a backdoor attempt to get around the forest planning process that we completed in 2006, where all the stakeholders were involved. They want all of those people's sayings, all those 15,000 comments thrown out the window, and this is their backdoor attempt to get a wave of the wand by the President of the United States to change the entire management philosophy of an area. This is unethical. Very unethical. It's unethical to solicit this type of declaration without approval from our elected officials. Where Congress isn't very popular with us right now, but it's still the best system on this planet. We're the ones that put them there, so we can't put all the blame in Washington. All of the collaboration promoted by the proponents, everything that we mentioned, all of this checklist of we're going to work on this together, all of this is smoke and mirrors, and I'll tell you why. All of these public hearings, all of this discussion is frivolous. Because the plan is not written until the designation is made. Let me repeat that. There is no plan written until the designation is made as a national monument. National monument is a designation of preservation, non-use. Conservation is wise use. Now, whoever writes this national monument plan with a preservation declaration, they can do whatever they want. They may allow hunting, they may not. But you cannot say, you cannot by any means whatsoever say, we only support this if we're allowed to hunt, if we can still timber, or if we can still do this. All of that is out the window. Once the designation is made, then the plan is written. The timber industry built this county. We had a display in the top of the municipal building on the way we work. When we rode that horse all summer. We've got one of the most beautiful murals I've ever seen down in town that has a representation of the logging industry. But you know what? What have you done for me lately? I'll tell you what, I'm here for the resource. I'm a wildlife biologist by profession. I work for a national grassroots organization called the National Wild Turkey Federation. Before that, I was a wildlife manager with the West Virginia DNR, stationed on the National Forest. And I was at a lot of these meetings during this planning process. I'm going through that same process right now in Virginia on the George Washington plan. I live this every day of my life. But I do it for the resource. I don't mean this in a bad way, but I don't care about you people. I got enough friends. I'm doing it for the resource and for the wildlife. Because without active management, the hunting is out the window. Oh, we can hunt. You got two ways to manage wildlife. You manage populations with hunters, and you manage habitat with timber management practices. And if you don't have active management, there's nothing there to hunt. The 4.1 designation is spruce forest restoration and spruce hardwood restoration. By that management plan, 8 to 10% of that's supposed to be kept in early successional habitat. That is a rotation to cut some of that spruce forest to allow the sunlight to hit the forest floor so we have little baby spruce trees growing up behind the big ones. That's the third grade version of 4.1 prescription. And that's the majority of this area. Private mineral rights supersede any designation. 62% of 4.1 is privately owned mineral rights. Money has been allocated in the past designations for the purchase of land through eminent domain. Petroglyph National Monument, if you want to check me on that. There is documentation of clandestine planning by this current administration in regard to National Monument designation in 2010. 12 states involved, 13 million acres in the western states. It took a congressional resolution by chairman of the Natural Resource Committee, Doc Hastings from Washington, to get Congress to release the information on the proposed national monument plans for these 12 states. 24-page synopsis was released in 2010. 2016 pages of the documents were not released. How will it affect the county? This designation, the first thing I asked Mr. Costello when we talked about this, I says, can you tell me right now that the West Virginia Wilderness Coalition is not going to propose this area for wilderness designation at the next forest plan revision? Can you tell me that? And he said, well, no, I'm at the mercy of the board. Well, I can't tell you what we're going to do, but I can tell you one thing. Wilderness designation sure would be a lot easier if it already has national monument designation. And everything you said, it's all of what if. All of this with the collaboration, all of these stakeholders, all of these things that where everybody gets a say-so and work on it together, it's all smoke and mirrors. I'll say it again. The plan is not written until the designation is made. 8 to 10% of our spruce forest should be in early successional habitat in that prescription. We have a lot of mills. We have a lot of people that depend on these mills. I depend on them because, remember, I'm in it for the wildlife. I'm not in it for you. What always doesn't look as pretty to us in a view shed may not be the best thing for wildlife. That's selfish, very selfish. That we put our own concerns on Saturday morning, every other weekend, on what we see over what's there every day. Very selfish. How will it affect the PILT, pay in lieu of taxes, and secure rural school money? How will it affect that if it's taken out of active management? We're talking upwards of 200,000 acres. If it's not in active management, we can't collect taxes for payment in lieu of taxes, whichever one, I'm sure, hopefully you're familiar with that. I feel certain that you are. I'm not saying that we can't collect it, but I'm having a heck of a time finding out how that's going to be effective. The Rural Advisory Committee, Secure Rural Schools, the Self-Determination Act. I serve on the West Virginia Rural Advisory Committee, so I'm pretty well versed on those regulations. How will it be effective if we take 200,000 acres out of active management in Pocahontas County? That comprised about 12 positions with our local school system. Do you want to go on record? Do you want to go on record supporting a national monument that may cause 12 teachers to lose their jobs in Pocahontas County if that Rural Schools Advisory or Secure Rural Schools Act is not renewed? It's an unknown. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I can't find the answer. Ramps, ginseng, hunters, limestone fine application, wildlife opening maintenance, including mowing, lime, fertilizer application, and seeding, use of herbicides for the control of non-native invasive species. No one can predict the outcome. No one can predict who's going to be managing because the plan is not written until after the designation is made. Did you have a question for me, sir?
Yes, I do. Does that include hunting, fishing, and dog training year-round practically here in the state?
What's that, sir? Does what?